We hear on a regular basis laments over the condition of America today. And I do think we're a disaster right now, but I'm not sure what the cause and the effect is, where you can measure that. But other people, I think, have been thinking about it more and might even be in a better position to analyze it than me. So we've got one of them here. Alexandra Hudson is here, and she's got a book called The Soul of Civility: Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves. And she's got a website on it and where she writes. And, she's a creator of ideas on this, and I'm excited to talk to her. So, Lexi, welcome to WTIC, and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
So what exactly are you up to?
So it's no question we live in a divided moment. The book is about the most important question of our day. How might we flourish across deep difference? And what does that look like in practice? Even when the stakes feel really high, as they do right now as we're entering into an election season, and in times of conflict and in times of war. I came to my topic. I worked in federal government in a very divided time in Washington, D.C., 2017 to 2018. And I saw these two extremes. I saw, on one hand, people who are hostile and cruel and bullies, willing to step on anyone to get ahead, on one hand. And on the other hand, I saw people who are polished and polite, but ruthless and cruel. That clarified for me this essential distinction between civility and politeness, which I make throughout my book.
And what's the importance of that difference? So is the slick and nice-smelling person with the perfect suit somehow better than the person who's overtly, honestly brutal and ruthless in their pursuit of power?
It's a great question, because we are a society that tends to value appearances. So we are, as Guy Debord, a French intellectual, said, a society of spectacle. Like we think that what we see is all there is. And so we're often very perplexed, as I was when I was in government, when we see that what all there is what we see is not all there is. And I realized actually these two extremes, they seem like polar opposites, but they're very similar, the extreme hostility and the extreme politeness. They actually both instrumentalize others. They see other people as means to their selfish ends, seeing other human beings as beings with equal moral worth to us, beings with dignity and worthy of respect just by virtue of our shared moral status as members of the human community. And we need that message now more than ever, because we need to be reminded of the basic respect we owe to others when the stakes are really high, as they do right now. Clausewitz, he was a scholar of war, he said that politics is war by other means. When we're not able to deliberately dialogue across difference, violence comes back on the table. And we're seeing that, and bloodshed comes back to the table. And we've had bloodshed, we've had conflict throughout human history, throughout our nation's history. We've seen that even today. McCarthy elbowed the congressman who voted him off the island. Or I don't know if you saw the senator from Oklahoma, who during a health committee today threatened and goaded. He said, "Let's take you any place, anytime." The Sean.
Yeah, he was trying to start a fight on the floor. Imagine Bernie Sanders having to break it up.
That's exactly, Bernie Sanders, exactly.
Of all people. But here's the thing, Lexi. Here's the thing, that it's really interesting, because we just had an interview with a new mayor in Enfield, Connecticut, and it's a town where this kind of volatility was arising, and the new mayor and the new town council opened their new season with them in control, and the new mayor got chosen last night, and he provided one of the most vivid portrayals of why what they call comedy in the Senate, this congeniality where you maintain a veneer of respect for one another, even though you might be fighting over things that are deeply divisive, principled beliefs. But and it was necessary, and it was inspiring. It really was a beautiful thing to behold. But I do know that during the era of Trump running for president and becoming elected, that part of what propelled him into office was a sense that everybody's in Washington, the pathological niceness became a cover story for doing totally different things behind the scenes. So it became the symbol of badness in politics because so many people who are behaving maliciously, as you alluded to at the beginning, are actually making sure they put on their cologne before they make the stench.
That's exactly right. And I think, what you just identified is an explanation for the rise of Trump and a rise of other sort of strongmen politicians, like people who are willing to take the gloves off and do whatever it takes to stand up for their side and get the other side. And we see this across the political spectrum and even, in fact, across the world as well, that these people have risen to prominence because Americans and others are rightly frustrated with this faux veneer of faux politeness, of tone policing, of, oh, you can't say that. That's just not done. This sort of
that's hateful.
Pearl clutching. Right. That's actually, not truly respecting others. And so crucially, civility and politeness, this distinction, back to that for a second, civility is the basic respect that we are owed to others by virtue of our shared humanity and shared dignity. It's not just the manners, etiquette, technique, the decorum of superficial politeness. It's internal. It's a disposition of the heart that respects others and that crucially sometimes requires requires telling hard truths, engaging in robust debate. But the mistake I think people make is that the antidote to faux politeness is that other I identified in government, right? Like that bullying that is equally as dehumanizing.
So you don't, if you don't give up your own, and I like what you said about it's got to do with your heart, not their hearts.
Exactly.
And if you're up against somebody who's got ugliness in their heart, you don't adapt to them. You try to force them to adapt to you. And there are ways to do that, I think. Is that what you're arguing for?
That's right. My theory of social change is fundamentally local and individual and micro. I did not write my book for politicians in Washington. I do hope they read it. So anyone listening to this, feel free to send it to your local congressman. I didn't even write it for the intelligentsia, in our world today. I wrote it for everyday Americans who are frustrated by our divided status quo and are hungry for a solution. They just want to live their lives. They want our democratic institutions to work for them, their families, work for their children, and they want to go about their daily lives. And my message that I end to them throughout my book is that each of us as everyday Americans, have far more power to be a part of this solution than we realize. That we, in fact, this situation can't be left to politicians alone. No politician is the cause. No politician cure either. It has to be this sort of spontaneous, organic effort, collective effort of everyday Americans to engage in this thing called self-governance, restraining our immediate desires for the sake of this joint project of living well with others, that is life in a democracy. Life with others is the highest and best life. It's also hard. It's very hard. And we have a choice to make every moment of every day. Are we going to act in ways that support this joint democratic project, or are we going to detract from it? And that's up to us every moment of every day.
Alexandra Hudson, nicely put. The book is called The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves. And I think that principle is really important, that when faced with somebody who wants to pull down the quality of the debate and the quality of the experience of government, that the antidote to that is to double down on dignity and to carry yourself in the best way possible. And it doesn't mean, I had a friend who used to use this expression, he would say that other people were taking kindness for weakness, but you don't have to be weak to be decent. You can be decent and you can be firm and clear, right?
That's exactly correct. That's exactly. I think too often today when people mistake public leaders who are civil and decent or for being weak, that just comes back again to conflating civility and politeness, to misunderstanding this important distinction between them. That true civility requires respecting ourselves to tell hard truths to others, to broach uncomfortable conversations, and respecting others enough to disagree with them, to risk offending them. It's actually, papering over difference with politeness. That's patronizing them, saying, but instead, civility says, respect you enough to take you and your ideas seriously, and not to treat you like a child and pretend that there's no difference here when there is difference. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what I think. And we owe that to ourselves. We owe that to others. And again, debate is the lifeblood of a democracy. If we're not able to have robust, reasons to dialogue, our democratic institutions, our free and flourishing way of life is in peril. And so we each have a role and a duty to do this in our everyday.
Lexi, it's great to meet you. I wish that our segment hadn't gotten a little crimped here. It's shorter than I had hoped, and I apologize for that. But I love what you have to say. And the book is called The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves. And I like the distinctions that you make. I think it's important for us to know how to think about this, because those people out there practicing politics, however they're practicing it, they're generally trying to trick us into going somewhere we don't want to go. And we need people with a message of clarity. So you've got a nice one. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Alexandra Hudson. The book is called The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves. Thank you so much, Lexi.
Thank you.
Take care.